attending. Confirmation of the agenda. I guess John and Mike or John, do you want to?
I'll move it, but I'd like to amend it a little bit. I'd like to switch 7.2 and 7.3. With talking with Derek, it would flow better if it was the other way around.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, thanks, Mike. All those in favor?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're supposed to ask, is anyone opposed? Sorry about that. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Not hearing any at this time. If one should arise during the course of the meeting, feel free to declare it at that time. We have no delegations, no presentations. Welcome, Mr. Milliner. We're just about ready to adjourn. Adoption of the minutes of the last meeting. John, you'll second. Mike first that. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Staff reports. Be it resolved that committee receive the staff updates reports as information. So it's John's turn to move that. Okay. Michael will second that. And we'll launch right into this. So I'll turn it over to you, Derek. I believe this is your baby. So we'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, so this is a potential thought. Came from a couple months back. I guess I called Dave and asked him if anyone's ever looked into Holstein, if it was to recreate another fire hall or not there, and what some of the costs would be. And I know the answer I got was you're crazy. But then when we started nailing down some numbers, it's not that crazy in my opinion. But yeah, so I did an Excel spreadsheet with some of the costs. I don't know if council would ever want to see this come across their desk or not, or if they want a more in-depth report, or if it just dies off here. There's a couple moving parts that would be required for it. One of them would be that EMS leaves the Dundalk Fire Hall. I know that's sort of up in the air. That's one of our plans sort of happening here. Then we take the $250,000, I believe it is, in the reserve for expansion on this bay, and we build one double bay long or two bays at the Holstein Public Works Depot if there's room there, and reconvert that space, the council chambers, into office and gear room. I don't know if you guys have any questions or thoughts, or how you want to go across this one. It's kind of, it's a big picture item, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it definitely is that. I'll agree with that part. Any discussion? John, Mike?
Go ahead,
myself, I don't see what the benefit to our taxpayers would be and the costs. And then, are we stepping on toes? Taking over area very often again, bringing the new fire department into a certain area when we have coverage in Durham and Mount Forest. I just don't know liability. We're opening ourselves up to more liability now because we got another fire hall that we got to look after and equipment. Just seems that I don't see where the savings for the tax dollar is here.
Okay. Derek, do you want to comment before John weighs in, or? Is that my internet that's freezing, or is it Derek's?
No, I don't think you are. No, you're good.
Derek, can you hear us? It's definitely Derek. It's not.
You better be speechless.
I was all frozen. Got a little bit of it. That was it.
I guess essentially what Mike's saying is he doesn't see enough financial benefit to the taxpayers to proceed with anything of this nature. And he also indicated, would there be some potential for hard feelings with Durham or Mount Forest if we were to kind of insert ourselves into their ground, so to speak? I think that was the essence of your question there, or your comments there, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, we've had a good working relationships over the years. I mean, I was on it for 15 years and we never had any issues with mutual aid, helping one another. So I just can't see the Holstein being so close to Mount Forest. I just don't see the benefit.
Right. So, Derek, do you want to comment on that, or?
Yeah, like so some of this is right now. It's say 57,000 every 2 years that we're saving. The idea of this is whether we say we pull the trigger in 4 years, or at what point does the cost for fire protection, because it's obviously going to keep increasing, at what point does it make sense? Maybe it's 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, or maybe it never does. Does it make sense for us now to provide our own service in town there, and then that way we're not paying out any fire protection revenue? We're our expense. We're only collecting revenue from Langton, Grey Highlands. The only other thing that would really be with that is Holstein is more of the population density of the West End. I would say, like, it's, you got a little village there. You got the depot. You got the school there. Right now, I pulled a number from last fall, from the time Mount Forest got paged out to when water was put on a structure fire, was just over 20 minutes. So are we comfortable with that, or can we narrow that down depending on if you have the personnel there to be able to roll a truck and get it there in under 20 minutes with water on? That's, once again, is totally up to council, but it's just things to think about. For the hurt feelings, I wouldn't really worry too much about that. Wellington North also currently, they don't outsource any fire protection. They cover their own area. West Grey, they're in the same boat, sort of like Newstead. They run 30 calls a year. Same with Ayton, where Holstein would run 70 calls a year. So.
Okay. John, you want to?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole bunch to this, and like I would say, if it was right this minute, we were looking at doing this in the very short term, that I would agree with Mike to a certain extent. But if we look down the road a little bit, it helps us out in quite a few ways. I think it's something we should investigate, get more numbers on, and have a better look, because when Derek and I talked about this, it also would cut down on some of Dundalk's calls, which are starting to get up to the range that's putting a lot of pressure on the firefighters here running the calls. So it would drop that down a little bit, which means we stay volunteer a little longer. And with some growth out to that end, I don't know, it just may make sense for when our contract's up. So I think if we don't look at it, we're doing a disservice. And I'm not a big fan of throwing good money after bad, but I don't think we have enough information right now to say, no, let's not look at this. So I'd like to look into it.
Derek? You respond to any of that, or?
Yeah, I agree. Like if we were to open up in Holstein, Dundalk wouldn't run as far west. With the development here, we would cut back the whole concessions from going west. Right now we run all the way up to 51 and basically Southgate Road 26. It takes us basically 20 minutes to get out of there. Holstein, I think it's only like 10 to 15 max. The idea of it is, I hear you, Deputy Mayor Milne, always talking about at council, what about the West End? What about the West End? Is this a way that we can better provide coverage to our residents out there? I've had one guy that I talked to, because I've been out there a couple times, who is just right angry that there's been two shot fires and they didn't use the hydrant that was in town there. Now, when we went investigating that, we talked to Mount Forest. They knew that hydrant for about 6 years, and they never said anything. There's a lot of loss of communication between contractor and the township. There's been a couple reports that have gone missing that hasn't made it to our desk that we've lost revenue at, or they haven't been treated the same as we treat our residents over here in Dundalk, which should all be Southgate. If Mount Forest or Durham goes there, they might feel like, oh, this individual violated the firm bylaw, but they're not going to pay the penalty. But over in the Dundalk area, we are doing that. So it's a little bit different, but we're all Southgate, so they all residents should be treated the exact same. So it's just a little bit of a way to bring that closer together. So.
Well, I'm certainly glad that somebody's listening to my pleas for the West End. For the most part, the CAO and the rest of the staff don't listen, but I'm glad somebody is. No, I know. In all seriousness, I'm really intrigued with the idea. I don't know. I agree with John that we're going to need more information. Obviously, I guess the big question. There's two questions I had for you, Derek. But one question was, are we certain, or can we be certain, that the coverage would be as good or better for all the residents in the West End, regardless, irregardless of the cost, to start the discussion? And the second would be, is Holstein the right place? And before you jump to conclusion, I'm not suggesting Drumore. Although if you want to put it there, that's good too. But I'm just wondering, is the geography for the West End, would it be better further north? I don't know. Because Holstein is so close to Mount Forest, I guess if you look at the broader coverage area, in my mind, it would make sense to try to, if you're going to do an exercise like this, you'd be better to put the hall somewhere where there's a gap in the service, rather than 10 minutes north of Mount Forest Fire Hall. So those are my two questions, Derek, to start.
So I got a bit of that. I'm going to actually call in here because this game's up to keep freezing.
Oh, okay.
Give me one moment.
Now you're breaking up again.
Maybe you turn your video off. Try that. Try speaking now.
So this is really frustrating.
Yeah, I thought you could run a better meeting.
Okay, how's that?
There we go. That's better.
Okay. So what I got from that first question that I heard was service delivery. Can it be similar or better? As for that, I guess it all comes down to, is there personnel in Holstein? If we were going to build a department on the West End, I believe that would be your only option due to the population. I know if we could get a truck out the door in, say, 10 minutes or 15, I would say 10 minutes, which is a loads of time, you're still going to be better service for the most populated part of Southgate. Obviously, there's going to be some pockets where we run right up against Mount Forest, and yeah, you know what, we're going to be an extra couple minutes there. But I think you need to look at where your most populated is, where your majority of your calls are. Like I said, Mount Forest, for that one call, they were 20 minutes to get there before putting water on, and they only had five people, and they had Arthur come up as well for that shot fire. So
Right. And to be clear, my question was not intended to be critical of any responses. Or I just, if we're going to do this exercise or think about this exercise, the service needs to be as good or better. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
absolutely. No, it's just looking at stats there too, right? So
Yep. Okay. Dave, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah, so I think about Holstein all the time. That's my first.
That's good.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with some comments that Holstein's not the right place. I mean, if you wanted to get the right place, likely somewhere around Yeovil, the Don Lewis's sheep station there would be kind of centered everywhere. But it comes back to, let's say it was Drumore, but where do you get the critical mass of people that might be there to respond as firefighters? That's the big challenge.
Sure.
You can crunch the numbers 10 ways, and you'll never operate it for less. I can guarantee you'll never operate for less than what you can buy the service. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. I think if we go into this, you need to realize that you're going to spend more money because you're going to need equipment, and equipment alone is going to be 2 vehicles. It's going to be $1 million, and then you've got the apparatus. I mean, we sold the fire hall in Holstein that maybe wouldn't be any good anyway, but it would take a fair investment. You'd be looking at a couple $1 million of investment likely to get it started, and I think you're going to need a full-time staff person out there. You can't just, we got to get out the door with something and some leadership. So if it's something we're going to investigate, we need to realize those investments would be required in the short term. And likely it's going to cost you a couple $100,000 a year to run it at minimum.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
So, I'm looking at these numbers that I know they were just rough numbers that Derek put down here, but he said a total savings of $57,000. So, how we have a savings of $57,000 if we're going to spend $1 million on trucks and full-time wages and everything else, right?
I think that's the point, is right now we're guessing at numbers, and what we need to do is just see what the numbers are. I just think it deserves having a look at, and yeah, the trucks are going to cost a fair bit, but if the community out there it ends up being something they want and support, Dundalk, the people bought fire trucks here before, not out of tax money, out of fundraisers. And if it's something viable, but the cost for initially starting it is too high, then we go to the community and see if they're interested. Same as the old town hall. If they can do it, fine. If they don't, then we can't do it. But I think we just need to have that look. And there's a lot better places centrally than Holstein, but Holstein's where you're going to get the people to jump on the trucks. You're not going to get the volume of people anywhere else out there, well, except for downtown Drumore. To get on the trucks. So,
Right.
And we ran the Dundalk Hall without somebody full-time there up until not that many years ago. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the balance would be, but I'd just like to see all that somewhere so that we can look at it with and without and see, this may be a pipe dream that, like Derek said earlier, 20 years from now still won't be viable. But we're never known unless we look at it.
Yeah. Derek, do you think you can beef these numbers up with a little more investigation, or?
Yeah, there's a little other things that aren't included. So the pumper truck there's a bit of a typo. It's actually $409,000. That is the price. So that's the price that Flesherton paid for their truck that they just got delivered. So I ran it because the truck's good for 15 years. So divide the payment over 15 years equals $27,000 a year roughly. The tanker truck is what Honeywood bought for $330,000. So that's where I got that number from. That got delivered a year ago. So then you divide that up, and you get $22,000 a year, roughly, is what it works out to. So I got majority of, like, I even did gloves, boots, stuff like that. The things that are missing would be the fuel prices, as per the person being there. Like, there's no reason my job title says I'm the Southgate Fire Chief. There's no reason I have to be in the Dundalk office 5 days a week. I can be over in Holstein 3 days a week if need be, and come back here. I have a full-time fire prevention officer here, if that's what it's going to take to get her going. The idea would be do that, make a district sort of chief in Dundalk, and make a district chief over in Holstein. That way I don't have to be at both either or times, and that helps me get some vacation as well, because there's two technically deputy chiefs, district chiefs in Southgate. So.
Right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead, Mike.
I'm just thinking, after Flato buys the Holstein Optimus Parks there and puts a subdivision out there, then we should be doing it. Until then, I think we should just wait.
But that's exactly why I think, maybe we do need to even just have a little bit better look at it. I'm not saying this is something we should do now, and I agree with Mike. Until subdivisions start turning up, maybe it isn't going to be viable. But it's another one of those things of the contract's good for another 3-4 years. So why not just have a bit better look at it? I don't want to spend tons of time, but have a bit better look at it so that we know where the pitfalls are down the road and what we're looking for down the road to do this. Because, 30 years ago, who would have thought Dundalk could have 2 full-time people? So, I just think it's something that, it's like having a shovel-ready plan for whether it's a rec building or anything else. I think if there's some preliminary work done here, it highlights what we need to look for to make it viable. Right. Time-wise or population-wise or whatever.
Yeah. So, Derek, do I understand correctly that the total savings, when you have that number 50, almost 58,000, that's for 2 years or 1 year?
Yeah, that was for 2 years, for 2019 and 2020 together. Obviously, the Wellington North agreement came, and we've cut costs by like 20 grand from the 71. So I'm just going off data that I actually have, because I don't have the calls for 2021 yet. I only had all the calls for 2019 and 2020 from both stations, and that's how I got my wages.
Right. So roughly 30 grand a year. Savings. Right. So, Derek, in your mind, setting the savings aside for a moment, in your mind, what's the tipping point or the metric that we measure to determine whether this project is viable? I mean, in all honesty, $25,000 a year is that can get soaked up in a hurry, and a couple brake jobs on trucks would soak that up in a hurry. So, is there another metric that you'd be looking at to determine whether the project is viable?
We would need to see the number of interested people that would want to either be able to join the fire department or not, because without those people, there is no fire department. So you need to look at that. You need to look at, is Holstein ever going to develop? Is there ever going to be any development there, or is it going to stay the same size it's always going to be?
Right.
And then you would also look at the dollar figure as well. After 4 or 5 years, what's Wellington North going to come back at us with? What is West Grey going to come up with for pricing? Are they going to keep going? Is Wellington North going to come up to 80, 90,000, 100,000? You don't know, but you're putting all your eggs in one basket if you don't sort of even entertain the idea of this, investigate it. Like I said, it could go nowhere. But at what point do we need to look at it and say, if this all happens, we pulled the trigger and we're going to create something and service ourselves?
Right. I mean, even one of the benefits of doing the exercise, even publicly, and I guess we are, is that Wellington North and West Grey see that maybe we're serious about having a look at this, and maybe that'll cause them to sharpen their pencil a little bit too. I don't know. We've already seen quite a significant saving from Wellington North because of Derek's good work. So, maybe an exercise like this could get them to sharpen their pencil further. I don't know. Do you think in your mind, Derek, there's potential for more savings yet on the contracts?
I see it going up. I think it's pretty reasonable where it is right now. There's other sort of stipulations in the contract that's not really, they're still working things out due to the fact that they are sort of under new sort of management, sort of Minto and Wellington North have combined. I don't think they've completely meshed yet, so there's a lot of hiccups still happening. I don't know. They can either take this one of two ways. They can be upset about it, but at the same time, they might be happy about it because now if there's a big event in Mount Forest, you have another fire hall, which is in Holstein, which is 10-15 minutes away, that they could activate mutual aid for. So it could be a benefit almost for them as well.
Yeah, we'd still need the mutual aid contract, of course, right? So what's the thought, the decision I guess we're being asked to make today is, do we want to kill this now, or do we want to allow Derek, as time provides, do we want to allow Derek to do a little more work on it? John?
I'd like to see a bit more work on it. Like I said, I don't see going crazy about it, but just a bit more of a plan with some of the unknowns or the pitfalls that we'd have to look at, kind of listed out too, whether it's call volume, people there, capital costs, all that type of stuff. Just so that we're keeping it on the radar a little bit to get a bit more information, and then we can decide to shelf it or not.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I like the idea of having fire protection throughout Southgate. I'm just wondering about the liability if we have enough people in Holstein when you go to, spend $700,000 on trucks, you amortize it over 15 years. But we still got to make sure we have response times. That if it's going to take us 20 minutes to get to the spot restaurant that's on fire, and Mount Forest is right there in 5 minutes, I just don't know response times, how well we will do over there. I understand having stuff at that end of the township is beneficial, but at the same token, the mutual aid that we've had over the years has always worked for us. Are they ever going to say, we're not going to help you guys out anymore? Well, then we would be in a pickle, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
well, I hope that would never happen.
No, I don't think it will, but at the same token, I'm not sure how many volunteers you're going to have in Holstein that can jump on the truck. We're going to be running it at Dundalk.
So I guess what it sounds like to me is we got at least a couple of us that would like this, Derek, to spend a little bit more time on this. It's certainly not urgent by any means. And I think there are a lot of things that need to be looked at yet. So, Derek, I guess if you want to spend a little more time on this in the future, that would be fine. Okay?
Awesome. Okay.
7.3, is that the one you wanted next, John? Yes, it is. So, is that Derek's as well, John? Yep. Okay. Derek, the fire department rehab trailer.
So this is more of a update. We had an idea to create sort of a rehab trailer. Like right now we have our UTV that's on a flatbed trailer. The flatbed trailer is sort of only used for the UTV. We wanted something multi-purpose. So we've talked to a couple of different people. We have a 16-foot enclosed trailer coming that Flato has donated to purchase for us. And a washroom. We're going to put a cassette toilet in there, portable sink in there. We're going to have some fold-down seats in there. We're going to have a cabinet, microwave. Just for the guys, for the UTV, it'll be able to take the UTV out. But then also, if we're on scene for a long time, we can back the UTV out of it. It's a place for rehab for guys to get over the elements, especially if we're there for a long time. So that is completely going to be funded from Flato, and Dunwood signed has said they'll donate the wrap on it, and they'll just get their names on the side of the trailer. So that's something that should be happening within the next month or so here. We're just waiting on the trailer to be ready for us to purchase. So I guess you guys have any questions on that?
John or Mike, any questions? Comments? Oh, we lost Mike. He must be down in the hollow.
Yeah. To me, this is a really good idea, and I think it was Mississauga, but I could be wrong on the department. Years ago, what they did was they had multiple trailers as they got into other things, like their hazardous materials response was a separate trailer. And they had water rescue had had another one, and they could, depending what call they had, they could hook up to a trailer to take it with them, and it saved them having trucks. Trailers don't fall under the same provisions with the fire marshal's office as having to be within 15 years. So it just kind of worked out a lot of ways around, and I'm not saying we need more trailers than the one, but I think it's a good idea.
Right. And you'd pull this, John, or Derek, you'd pull this with the 250 or the Ford?
Yeah, so that's the plan, is the 250 is going to pull it. So the flatbed will have to be traded in. So the enclosed trailer is 2019 enclosed trailer. It originally is $7,100, but for us to do a trade-in for our current flatbed, we're going to get it for $5,800. Flato is writing us a check, I do believe, for $7,000. Dave can confirm that one. But that will be pay for the trailer. It'll pay for the washroom in there, the microwave, and anything else that we need to do to the trailer to get it operational. So it'll be pulled by that, and then when we get Unit 301 from Public Works, we're supposed to get that this year. That's also another truck that's available to pull it.
Cool. Very cool. Anything else on that one, Derek?
No, unless you guys have any other questions.
Nope.
It seems like a
Mike,
win-win.
we lost you. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
It seems like a win-win for us, for the fire department. I mean, it's a donation, so I think you can always use it on a cold day or even a hot day to get out of the sun.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, moving on then to the 7.2, which is the Town of Hanover Technical Rescue Agreement. Derek?
So this has been sort of on my desk for some time. We've been going back and forth. Under our profile, municipal profile, we don't offer any sort of water-based rescue, high-angle-based rescue, anything sort of like that. So when talking with the advisor, the OFM advisor, he did indicate that if we know this is a possible cause and we just say we're not going to it, but there is a risk of that happening, that we can still be liable. The old ways of saying, no, we don't offer that service is sort of out the door, because we know there's a bit of a risk to it. So with talking to the Hanover chief, he would be willing to offer swift water rescue, ice water rescue, technical rescue, high angle, low angle, in case for whatever reason. There's always been talk about someone hanging off the Swinton Park grain elevator, what we would do. So the idea with this one would be we would contract it out to them. Originally, the problem was with this agreement was they wanted us to pay for any damage to their truck if it was to come over here. But now we're looking at it as, do we sort of try and treat it as mutual aid, because we can offer them something reciprocal, and that is we will get any of that rescue stuff for free if we ever need it. They're also going to come over and train us on shore-based rescue. And then we just take our rehab trailer over to them if they need it for a big event. and we don't pay. There's no cost exchange.
Well, no cost part I like. John or Mike, any discussion?
I like the no cost, and I think anytime we can trade off services like that, and if they're coming over for shore base, some of the stuff you guys could train with together would be, how to make the scene ready for them when they get there. I like make the scene ready for when we get there. That's stuff I used to do, and it was always easier if the first truck that was there knew where there was going to be an empty spot for the technical rescue crew to get there and get in, and what they need cleared out of the way or access to things like that. So I think it's a great idea.
Yep. Derek, would that include enclosed spaces rescue as well?
So the only service they don't offer is confined space rescue, but high angle, low angle. Not a lot of people do confined space anymore, just because there's never really any calls for that now. But it would cover, like I said, ice water. They have a boat they would send in, and this agreement's for all of Southgate, for Wilders Lake as well. Mount Forest, be able to use them as well down in the Woodland Springs Creek there. And the idea of the no service cost is currently right now, if West Grey uses them in Wilders Lake, due to their fees and charges, that's an extra service, so they can bill it to the person that needed rescued. So at this point, there's no cost to it, so if accidents do happen, the resident doesn't have to pay for it. It's just us taking our trailer over there if that was the case, and when they need it, and they come over here for free. And also
right on
for any rescue.
Pretty cool. Right on. Dave, you have anything to add to that one?
No, I'm good there.
You like the no cost part too, I bet.
I do. I'm still marinating over a new fire hall, but we'll work on that.
Well, as soon as Derek comes back and says new fire hall, no cost, we're in.
Yes, exactly. When he becomes a better treasurer than a sales promoter, we'll deal with it.
I don't know. You gotta sell it before you can pay for it. So.
No, for sure. No, it's let's drive on.
Oh, I like that. I'm just wondering, Derek. Obviously, Hanover makes a lot of sense for particularly the West End, like Wilders Lake or those kinds of things. Technical rescue stuff on the East End. Would it make more sense, like somebody like Orangeville, or do we already have an agreement for the East End? Or would Hanover come all the way to Dundalk for something like that?
So Hanover would come all the way to Dundalk. Currently, Flesherton uses Blue Mountains. Hanover and Blue Mountains is a minute difference on GPS for their timing.
Right.
I don't know if Orangeville offers full water rescue, high angle, low angle. But then again, we would be looking at another agreement, and are we going to be paying costs that way or not?
Right. Okay. No, I was just curious. That's fun. Yep. No, I like it. I like it a lot. Any last comments on that one, anyone?
No, I think it's a good idea. It's a win-win. I mean, they're mutual aid, like working between us. I mean, that's the way it needs to be. It's the only way we're going to save money as a township, and still provide the service that we need to make sure that our residents are all safe.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, thank you for that, Derek. So that concludes our staff updates and reports. So the motion is there to receive. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
I want to go back to the free stuff. We need to make sure, and I've told Shakir, we want to make sure we have a photo op with the committee, and get that done up right when we get the trailer and get it wrapped and everything else. But this was a pretty big deal.
Well, the photo op goes without saying, right? I mean, absolutely. And there's no cost for the photo.
And
all right.
Maybe if we have somebody else coming up to do a photo op for the medical building, we could park the trailer over that way too.
Yeah, that'd work as well. All right, so the motion was there to receive those 3 items. I forget now who made that motion, but the mover and seconder, is anyone opposed? Nope, that's good. That's carried. Number 8, new or unfinished business. Anyone? Hearing none. Hearing none. Number 9, members' privilege. John?
Yeah, I just I want to thank Derek. Young fire chief, you've really jumped into all this, and you're looking at stuff that we've never even thought of. And I think it's great. I think some of it will file in the blue box, but some of it is going to show us some real interesting things. I like the way you're looking at things and thinking of different routes to do it and coming up with the trade agreement type things. So to me, that's the good news here. Is thank you for looking at this from a different angle and floating the ideas out. That's how we're going to find out the good ideas. Just float them out and see what comes of it. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. No, that's right. Michael, anything?
I just want to piggyback on what John is saying there. Yeah, like we got to go outside and think outside the box. Figure out where. Like a haul out there is like when you first read it, you think, yeah, right. But when you can look at the numbers and see where we can save some money and stuff like that, and save people's lives, like what do you put on the light if you can get to a fire 15 minutes sooner? Like, at what point, right?
Yep. No, that's right. Dave?
Yeah, I want to echo that. I mean, as we've said some things kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I know Derek gets that sarcasm a bit too. But I always say, when it comes to stuff like this, until council says no 3 times, then keep at it. Like, don't just, we're a bit hesitant today, but I think there's a bit of a yellow light. Let's keep going, and there could be something come of this. Maybe not today, maybe it's in 5 years, but unless we start today, we won't know. So, sincerely, I appreciate that. We haven't had this kind of creativity, for some time in that post, and we appreciate that younger thinking in where we should be looking. So, awesome job there.
Yeah, I concur, and I'm not so sure it has anything to do with age. It's just whether you got the wherewithal to get those ideas out of your head and onto a piece of paper and get people thinking around you. And I commend you for that, Derek, 100%. Okay, next meeting. I guess at the call of the chair, Lindsay, would that be appropriate? Yes. And one motion left. John moves that we adjourn. Anyone opposed? That is not opposed, so we are now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.